size up the... All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for my pokiness in getting here. It wasn't for dread of what was to come. Very excited to have Ruth Hunt for today, and Tyson had given the request of Ruth some time back and said, but she always says no, but try her again. I mean, she doesn't say no to the piano, but she does.
I will never say no to the piano. I will never say no to the piano.
I want her to just keep saying that. I don't know if that's true.
But I may say no to this.
Okay. Well, I hope it goes well and you really enjoy it. But Ruth, most of you, maybe all of you would know that Ruth is a piano player here at the church, and not just kind of sort of a piano player, but a special talent and gift that I even think she wondered if she had enough to share about. I said, Ruth, I think people would be interested to hear you talking about anything. But some of those areas would be, and I want to talk to her about her thoughts on the state of the church. She just has an interesting background, and having been from Moody Bible Institute, and boy, a lot of things have changed. Moody has changed a lot, and then of course church music. She went through all the we call them I guess in seminary they maybe call them the worship wars, but some real tensions with changes there, and Ruth is just kind of beautifully is, at least by all appearances, beautifully worked through some of those changes, and just continue to provide a majestic element of worship that we really hope never goes away, and people aren't training in that area now.
I keep asking Tyson if he has anybody in the wings, because I'm not going to be here forever. And he keeps saying no. So I have to keep chugging along.
My mom, and I'm sorry, Ruth, I'll every now and then have
to.
Okay. It makes a big difference if it's close. So maybe we could get a little.
I need one of yours.
Yeah, why? I'd be glad to. Can I switch with her? Or is that a problem?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'll do it.
You didn't really want that on your ear, huh?
I don't know. I've never tried one.
It seems pretty easy. I can do all this and leave my hands. Well, let's pray as we jump in. Lord, thank you for this time with Ruth, and what a blessing she is. We all see it in her gift, but many of us also see it in her heart, and in her desire to serve, in her concern for your honor and for truth, for the way that she ministers to her family and others in need. We've seen a lot of this woman that goes beyond what those fingers of hers kind of miraculously do there too. So we thank you for her, and recognize the gift, and thank you for a chance to just chat with her a little bit today. So bless this time, Lord, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Ruth, I think you came to the church. We decided, you threw out all sorts of dates, but I think we decided it was a little after the selling of the old schoolhouse, which we'll talk about in a bit, but that was like early, maybe 2001, 2002?
Right. I came actually, I don't think to play the piano, but I was here like a year before Tyson. So I always have to ask him when he came, and then I know it's like a year before that.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's like 25 years or so.
And would that have been before you sold the old schoolhouse, or
I
still
was
after?
attending partially, because not all the time. But after we sold the restaurant, I knew that I had been away from God's work long enough. And so this had to happen. And so I came to church this one Sunday, and Pastor Dave's dad was playing the piano. He was a sweet man. I mean, I loved him dearly. But he was having a rough day that day. It was hard to sing. It was hard to sing, and it was like, oh boy, I think they might need a little help. So I called on Monday morning and got to the secretary, and I said, I just wanted you to know that, I graduated from Moody and the American Conservatory, and I am a pianist, I'm a believer, and if you need any help, I'm available. Well, Dave called me, it wasn't 10 minutes later, and he said, when can you start? And I said, next Sunday. He said, okay. So I've been here ever since.
I love it. So, and that in part was for me to say, many of us don't know a lot about your younger years. So why don't you give a little, can you give us a little picture of your upbringing, where you were from, family dynamic, and something about that?
I was born in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I had, my mom and dad were godly parents, and I feel like I had one of the best upbringings you could ever have, because I had aunts and uncles and grandparents that lived fairly close. And on any given weekend, if I made it known that I wanted to go spend a weekend with one of our family, I did. And I just had the best time. I mean, it was just great. When we had a little church, and the teacher that I loved and taught me the most Bible stories was Aunt Della Wilt. She wasn't my real aunt, but this little church, all of the older people were aunts and uncles. And so Aunt Della was my Sunday school teacher. And she led me to the Lord. And so I think I was 6. And when I was 7, I started taking piano lessons. So I, of course, was raised in church music. My mother was a pianist at church, and she would get me started on a song, and she'd say, okay, just play the tune. So I would, fiddle around and find a tune. But, I mean, I've always been near and dear to our church and my family. And it was pretty amazing until I got to be a teenager. Then I didn't think my mother was all that cool because she never let me do what I wanted to do. And everything had to be, wasn't good. So anyway, and it's a good thing. She was protecting me, and that's what she was supposed to do.
Now, let me just jump in. Now, how many of you remember Ruth's mother? She attended here for, several of you. How long did she attend in her later years?
To here?
Yeah.
Oh, probably, I think she lived with me for a couple years.
Okay.
And so she have been here all of that time.
Yeah, it was so cute. She would sit down by my grandma.
Yeah.
Birdie.
And they would see who could name the hymn I was playing first or something.
Did they really?
For the prelude, yeah.
I love that. For the prelude, yeah. Oh, that's
that
wonderful.
was kind of funny, yeah.
What did your dad do for work?
He worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad from the time he never finished high school. He, I think he was very young when he started working for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and he worked there until he retired.
Okay.
And he ended up being a welder. And so Daddy was my defender because my mother was really strict, and so she didn't let me do anything. But my dad, I could always get him to let me do more.
Wow. That sounds like the way my mom talks about her mom and dad.
Yeah.
Now, so, of course, the Sarah that we knew. What was Sarah's last name again?
Wirtz. Well, Kepler was was my dad's.
Okay,
so
Kepler when
Sarah
she
Kepler
was here. Yeah, okay, Sarah Kepler.
Yeah, her maiden name was Wirtz.
Tell us a little bit now. Your piano playing was, Mom. Now she was a very accomplished pianist as well. Tell us, and then share a little bit about that, the complexities of what she would ask you to do that you thought were a little over your head. But
Well, she would just Our church had 2 pianos, and we didn't have an organ. And so as soon as I was able, and I think it was probably, I might have been in middle school, whenever I was playing hymns, playing solos, and that kind of thing in church. And so we would practice, And Mother was, she wanted to make sure it was all okay or good. So we would work on these things, and it was fine. I loved that part of it. I never got mad at Mother over music. And I only got mad at her because she didn't like my boyfriend. So I wasn't allowed to do the things, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
She
right.
protected me like,
Wow.
like moms are supposed to. And I look back on it and I thought, thank the Lord for her strong will,
Wow.
determination that her daughter was going to come out of this still a virgin is really what it amounted
Yeah.
to. So anyway, Mom was, then as I got older, she was better, and that's usually.
Suddenly got smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had aunts and uncles, her sister, Aunt Pat, and Uncle Stu. I called them my fun parents because they didn't have children for the first 15 years of their marriage. And they basically gave up on it. But I was a beneficiary of that because they would take me on vacations with them and my younger sister, but they were a little bit too young. And they would take me with them. And all of the carnivals or anything that was going on in the area, Aunt Pat and Uncle Stu always took me with them to those. And we would have contests of who could eat the most pieces of pizza and who could eat the most toast to dunk in their cocoa at breakfast. And so we had these food contests. It's no wonder I'm overweight because I'll blame it on Aunt Pat and Uncle Stu.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyway, they were fun. They
So,
were a lot of fun.
So a working class, blue collar family. How many siblings?
I had two siblings. There were 3 girls of us, and they were 4 and 6 years younger than I. So
okay.
we feuded most of our childhood, but as teenagers, when I went away to Moody, it got to be that we got to be better friends. Until this time, we're so spread out, and I wish we lived closer because when we ever do get close, we just had the best time.
Wow.
So that's just the way life goes sometimes.
Now, your generation, and maybe you don't think a lot about it, or at least at the time wouldn't have, the church, the Protestant world went through a lot of changes. What kind of a church did you grow up in?
It was a little Bible church. It was it was a small church. I mean, we built it. It started out in a storm room, actually, with a few couples that wanted to get away from the Lutheran Church or the Catholic or whatever.
Okay.
There were a group of believers that wanted to have a church that was Bible teaching and I don't know, just Bible teaching, I would say.
And this is not a denominational
Not
church.
a denomination. It was,
Interesting.
And so that was, they then built another church, a little small, I mean, it's still small, but it was another church. And they, Craig Massey, I don't know if any of you know of Craig Massey, but because he moved to Wisconsin after the Pennsylvania thing. But he's the one that told me about Moody, and he said, I think that would be a good fit for you. They have a good music course, but he said they have good Bible teaching. And so that's what I kind of worked toward and got into Moody. And it was wonderful. I had the best theology teacher. I mean, I could not wait to get to that class. He was amazing. And he looked like, those dogs that have these sad eyes. And I mean, he was a strange-looking man, but he was amazing. I mean, when he got up there to teach the word, he was just, I mean, you just loved it. And I learned so much of theology from him. And Harry had him too. And
What was his name?
Charles Horn. I think he's been gone a long time. I tried to find out if he had written any books or anything, and I have not been able to do that.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget one day it was raining, and he was a little bit late, and he came in, and he said, I had a very catastrophic experience. And we never knew what was going to come out of his mouth, but he tripped and fell in a mud puddle or something, and he had to rush home and change his clothes.
Oh, wow.
But he finally made it, so we were good.
Yeah, sometimes those, my mom kind of grew up in a similar, like, it's hard for her to even say what kind of church it was because it depended on which pastor was from what denomination or other church was in. But did you have, I think of, was kind of along the evangelical strain of, some radio programs, Youth for Christ?
Yeah.
Were some of those things?
There was Youth for Christ.
Yeah.
In town. Our church was called Independent Bible Church.
Okay.
And so that kind of describes what it was.
Yeah.
And so whenever Craig came, he was another one that he was a Bible teacher, and he taught many subjects. He would have a series on dispensations, and he made a great big banner for the front of the church, and with all 7, I think there were dispensations on there, and he would, and then he had also on the crowns, and so he would have a series on crowns. So he was just amazing. One time, he said, for the young people, we're going to have a contest, and we're going to memorize the 2nd chapter of Philippians, and whoever wins these sword drills over a period of a couple of months, those 2 people are going to go camping with us up in Thousand Islands. Well, my best girlfriend and I decided we were going to win that trip. And so we memorized that book of Philippians, and we were already 2 of the faster ones for the sword drill. Do you know what those are?
Sword drill used to be how fast you can look up a...
Yeah, somebody would tell you the scripture, and whoever found it first and stood up and read it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what that was. And that was over a period of a couple of months. Well, Renee and I won it hands down, and so we got to go to the Thousand Islands.
Nice.
And with Craig and Louise, so that was great. The only bad thing about it is he made me bait my own hook. For fishing, I had to put that worm on that thing. He wasn't going to do it for me. And I said, well, my dad always does it. He said, well, I'm not your dad. He said, so I put that worm on the pier, and I kept trying to stab it and get it on there. It was awful. It was just terrible.
Ruth, you don't say stab when it comes to you put it on the hook.
Yeah, I did.
It's kind of stabby,
after
isn't it?
a lot of torture, I think, for the poor boy.
Now, would you say, Ruth, that so you came to Christ young and were raised in the church. Mm-hmm. Did you have questions or doubts, or was adolescence? You said like your relationship with your parents. You kind of don't think your mom is smart when you're a teenager. Yeah. How about your faith? Was it a pretty smooth transition?
It was. I never doubted my faith.
Yeah.
I never did. I just think because of the strong people in my life, Craig Massey being one of them, and he was great with we teenagers. And he didn't pull any punches. I mean, he kept us in line pretty much. Yeah. But within my family, I mean, my mother was just, she was just being a mom. But no, I never doubted my faith. Wow. And then I was happy to get into Moody, and then things moved on from there.
Yeah. And back then it was 3 years?
It was a 3-year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't have the, you couldn't get it. I don't think you get,
you
they were talking about
degree.
it, but I don't think you could get a degree.
Even when I was pursuing, it was the same thing. I don't know when it became a liberal arts 4-year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, what I had been told when I went to Moody was it was for ministry preparation. Mm-hmm. Everybody there. What were you thinking? I mean, you went for music performance?
No. I went for music, but I really didn't know. I mean, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Although, while I was at Moody, we all had to do Christian life stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we were told what we had to do. And one of the things, everybody always had to go to the missions down And,
I think
we
they
used to
still
say
have
we're
to
all
do
the
that,
bums.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to call them because it was bad. And so we had to go down there, and we were part of a Pacific Garden mission,
Yeah.
Harry Saulnier. And Harry Saulnier, I think, sometimes took the place of the Holy Spirit, because at the time, I would be playing the piano, and Harry would have me play Just As I Am. This was after he preached.
Yeah.
Well,
It worked for Billy Graham.
well, yeah. He would go down the aisle and he would pull these men
Oh,
up
wow.
to the front, and he'd make them say the prayer. They were drunk. They were so drunk. Anyway, he would say, well, play it again, Ruthie. I know I played Just As I Am 15 times.
Play it again.
Before Harry decided he'd saved enough people or something. I mean, it was, I kept thinking of my theology class. I thought, this is not right.
Oh, that's
But it was quite an experience.
Yeah, so you
But
didn't-
I asked the Lord, please do not, I'm asking you, please don't make me have this as my ministry, because I don't think I would be very good at it.
Well, now, okay, so you started without a specific, I think a lot of kids heading to college don't have a real clear direction as to what they're going to do with their degree, but eventually they usually kind of do.
Well, I knew it was going to be something in music.
Yeah,
And
okay.
by that time, I had met Harry, my junior year of
okay.
Moody, and he came in as a voice major.
Yeah.
And he got one of the lowest test grades on one part of the of the incoming test, but he got the highest score on something else having to do with rhythms or something. Anyway, and that's because he was a radio man in the Coast Guard, and so those he could read those really fast, and so
Interesting.
it translated into rhythm in music, but he could not read music. But they heard him sing. They had to sing something, and so the head of the voice department said, "I don't care what this guy can do. I want him."
All right, how many of you have heard Harry Hunt when he was living sing? Oh, less than half of you. It was amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, he was, and then I was his accompanist, and I played for a class where all the the voice majors went to this class, and they sang a song, and all of the rest of the people in the class would critique it, tell them what they did wrong and all this.
Yeah.
So anyway, I played for that class, and they'd give me their music, and I'd accompany them. And after, I don't know how long, he told the teacher, who was the head of the voice department, he said, "I'm going to marry that woman." And so Mr. Burton said, "Well, I don't think so. She's almost engaged to someone else." He said, "No, I don't care." So anyway,
You've had a lot of pushy men in your life.
I definitely have. And so anyway, I didn't know any of this was going on behind the scenes. But anyway, it turned out that the guy I was almost engaged to, we broke up, and Harry came on the scene. And I don't know, as soon as I talked to him a little while, I thought, I think I could love this guy. And so it went from there.
Yeah.
And then I graduated that next year, and we were married that same summer. And he had another year to go, so we had to get permission to live in the married dorm at Moody, and they weren't always real good about letting people stay there because there weren't very many rooms. But somebody left, and we were able to take the spot. So we lived in the married dorm for 2 years, and I went down to American Conservatory down in Michigan Avenue while Harry was finishing Moody.
Okay.
So that's where.
Did he have ministry aspirations too? What were you both thinking you would
We were both
vocationally use music?
We were both involved, and actually Craig Massey had a church in Des Plaines at this time. So he wanted us, we went to his church. Harry was a choir director, was in charge of the music. I played the piano. So we were in Christian music,
Yeah.
and Harry had other jobs. I don't even remember what all he did, but anyway, we liked the church music. He was taking voice lessons down at Roosevelt University, and his teacher wanted us to go to Italy for 2 years, study with a man that he knew there, and he said, "You'll come back an opera star." And he said, "Opera is where you need to be," told Harry. And he said, "And Ruthie, I can get you accompanying jobs, as much as you want." Well, Harry and I talked about it, thought about it, prayed about it. We decided, no, that was not the lifestyle we were wanting. At that time, we were into the church music. I was giving 30 piano lessons a week, and we were kind of happy where we were.
Okay.
So we gave that all up.
Yeah. So what did you do vocationally, and then tell a little bit about the starting of a family?
I taught piano lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, I taught a lot of piano lessons. And then working in the church with the people, we worked with the people the duets, the trios, the quartets, the instrumentals. We'd have them to our house and we'd practice. I'd practice with them, and Harry would, just do his thing. He was a good choir director. He kind of learned it, but he had rhythm. He was very good at it. But anyway, we enjoyed church music.
Yeah.
And so that's where our heart was. And so what else?
Well, and I'm thinking eventually you're not just in music. What did he do for employment in addition to the music? And then tell us about your family.
Okay. Well, we were married. We decided that we weren't going to have kids right away, and we wanted to enjoy our lives together. And we did. We lived in a mobile home, and if we wanted to go out for a pizza at 10 o'clock at night, that's what we did.
Nice.
So anyway, it was fun. We had a fun life together. After about 5 years, all our friends were all having families, and all of a sudden it's just like something went on both of our heads. I think I want a baby. So so we had two, like, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And that was great. We were going to have 4, and then after we had 2, we decided 2 was just fine. So, so that's what we did. But I'm just trying to think what Harry did for a vocation. Oh, he had a heating and air conditioning business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's right. I was his secretary. I forgot about that. Until we had our children, we had our babies, and Mark was just little, and he would cry when I would take him to the babysitter. She was an older lady, and he would cry every time I dropped him off. And then I would cry too, because I thought, I hate to drop him off. He doesn't want to go there. So I told Harry, Harry, you're going to have to find somebody else to be a secretary. I need to stay home with these kids. And so he did. And there was somebody that had talked to him before, said, I could be Ruthie's assistant or whatever. So she ended up being the secretary, which worked out just fine. And I was able to stay home with the kids.
And at this time, you're still in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never thought of going back to Pennsylvania, or?
No, I never thought of being, no,
Yeah.
because I didn't know what we would do there.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, in Chicago, there's all kinds of
Sure.
stuff. And we didn't want to, and he's from South Carolina, and I definitely did not want to live close to Harry's mother. She was quite a terror. I got to know her after years. I mean, and I could say I loved her the last few years of her life, but she gave me grief. And it's just because mostly I was a Yankee, and I knew that, this is Harry's wife. She's the Yankee,
Wow.
And I'm thinking, these people are still fighting that Civil War. So his father even said, Harry, you couldn't find yourself a nice little Southern girl.
Oh, wow. Oh, they teamed up on you.
Yeah. Harry says, no, Dad, this is the one for me.
Yeah.
So he was fine. I mean, they treated me okay. It's just that I was not used to the way they handled things, and my mother and dad never. I mean, I never saw them fight.
Yeah.
I mean, they would disagree, but they loved each other totally, and they showed it all the time. His mom and dad she would boss him around, and poor guy never stood a chance. And I always felt sorry for him, but she was very strong. But when she told me her life story, I could see why she was the way she was. And I learned to love her in the Lord.
Yeah.
And I mean, I loved her. And towards the end of her life, we became good friends. So I was happy that it ended well.
Yes, nice. Well, I'll get you to Baraboo in a second, but maybe just tease out a little bit, like what would you, in terms of your piano playing, what are some of maybe the most, when you look back, the neatest experiences you've had? Were you part of different orchestras or playing at great big churches or at different things?
No.
Did you have some neat opportunities?
Well, I had two, like while I was going to school, because I found out I was more competitive than I thought I was. Because
I'm noticing that.
You know.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, Moody, they had, for seniors, they had a contest, and they would have professional people come in, and they would decide who would be the person to play with the orchestra. And they actually hired some of the Chicago Symphony people to come in and join the Moody Orchestra and for that night. So anyway, all the senior pianists were the ones that were trying out for this, and it was one of my favorite concertos. It was the Greek concerto in A minor, and I thought, oh, I do want to play this. So I won it, and so I won it and played it, and it was just exciting because
Nice.
to play with a big orchestra and with
Wow.
the director, that was good. So then I went to American Conservatory, and pretty much the same thing happened there. I had a little teacher who was amazing, but what she taught me was emotion. And that what you need to know what you're playing about, and you need to feel that in your body, and then it needs to come out through your fingers. And so she was amazing that way, and she was so frail and old, she could barely press the keys too. But I mean, I'm thinking of my mother, but the things that she taught me were invaluable. Anyway, there was something that the song the piece that they picked for American was Franck Variation. Well, I didn't really like it all that much. It didn't seem like it was very, I don't know, concerto-ish. And so she said, no, you're going to love this. But she said, we're going to work on it. So she did. We worked on it. And I did go to love it because it had all kinds of different variations on a theme. And it was complicated. And so I was married by this time, and she said that, now, I know you're married, and I know you do things with Harry, but you have to spend time on this thing, hours every day. So I promised her I would. But anyway, I think there were 4 that tried out for that at American Conservatory. And I won that one too. So that was even the bigger symphony.
Wow.
And so that was exciting. Some of my relatives came from Pennsylvania, and it was fun. It was fun. So those are my 2 big things. And I never really felt like I wanted to be a concert pianist.
Okay, that's what I was
But
wondering.
I loved hymn arrangements, and I loved playing in church. I still loved a lot of piano students, and we gave recitals every year, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then Harry and I were having this great life, and it was a fun time. It was a good time. Then when we had our kids, that was fun too, but new life starts.
Right. Now, we've noticed, Well, I think maybe with COVID, the idea of passing around the plates in a lot of churches kind of went out. But anybody miss her offertories? Oh boy, I might have started something here. Tell us a little bit about the process that you would go through, because what you described of actually feeling what you're playing, and you, from what I remember, you didn't take any music up with you. But what would be the process that you would go through? Did you work to make sure that you felt it, or do you already feel the theology of a song because you already know them from years of playing them? Tell us a little bit about how you chose them. And
Well, I chose them a lot of times when I'm working on and I don't even maybe know what the solo is, but sometimes, a lot of times, a hymn will come to my mind. And it's like I can't get it out of my mind while I get to the piano. And so I'll play it, but I'll play it over and over and over again until some inspiration hits, which I'm hoping does. It doesn't always. And so that's kind of pretty much, I just kind of work it through that way. And it kind of evolves. I mean, I don't know if anybody, other piano player does this, but that's just kind of the way I have done things. Now, just like for the prelude, I just play hymns. Now, sometimes I'm incorporating some of those offertories in the prelude, if they're, the easier, simpler ones. And so, but that's pretty much how I do it.
are the themes of what you play, the songs, the words?
Yeah.
You said you're supposed to. Your teacher said, "I want you to actually think of what you're playing."
Yeah.
Do you feel like that? Are you distracted? Like some people who worship lead are kind of distracted by the fact that now where are we going after this verse?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and we'd go back to here and all that funny stuff. You seem like you're worshiping at the piano.
Yeah, I feel like I know what that hymn's about.
Yeah.
I probably could not get up and recite it because I'm not like a vocalist would know the words better than he would know the music sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
I know the music better than I know the words, but I know the gist of it, what the whole thing means. And so I draw upon that meaning to use in my playing. And so a lot of mine, I know some of the words or a lot of the words. It's just that I can't put them all together in the right place. But I always know what the subject is and how I try to play it so that comes through. Yeah. So that's
Well, I think we've worshipped, through your playing in really a special way. And I think all piano players are amazing. I don't know. I took 6 years of piano as a little guy, but it didn't seem to serve me real well. I was always looking out the window wondering why my buddies got to play football when I was practicing the piano. But yeah, when you get to the level that you're at and then combining, some people are good with just the music and some people can only play by ear or by chords.
Right, that's amazing too.
And your training is so thorough, but then the heart behind it, the great theology that you grew up with and that you studied under, it really has provided us a incredible worship opportunity here.
Yeah, well, it's to me, it's one of the wonderful things that I enjoy. And I have this little story that just came to me this last week. And that was, I've had this neck thing that I've been complaining to everybody about, that I've been in such pain in the last 2 months with this neck. And I've tried everything. I went to the chiropractor, and that's good for while you're there. And then I went to this massage, and she, it's good for a few days. And I go to acupuncture regularly, and that would work for a week and a half, 2 weeks. But somebody here said, try physical therapy. So I asked the doctor, I just happened to have an appointment, and she said, I was just going to suggest that to you, the physical therapy. So I got physical therapy, and they did the dry needling and the cupping, And that was okay, it helped then. But what they gave me that lasted were the exercises. So I have these bands, and I, do the different things and twisting certain ways. But that is what helped. And all of a sudden, I was sitting and I thought, wow, I don't even have any pain. And then it didn't hurt until I tried to turn my head. But even I can turn my head a little bit better now than I could. So anyway, I was just thinking about that. I thought, you know what? This neck thing has been a gift, God's gift to me. And the reason being is he gave me arthritis in my neck and not my hands. And so my hands are free. I don't have any arthritis in my fingers, in my thumb things, but everybody's kind of gets that are older. But it doesn't affect my piano playing. So I'm thankful that I have neck pain because I don't have any hand pain.
Wow.
Oh, so I look at that. I thought, you know what? I should have thought of that beforehand. I did everything under the sun for this neck, and I mean it is a lot better. But I am just so thankful that God has allowed me to keep playing at this age, because a lot of pianists at my age, I can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about ages, but yeah, you're a little bit older than my mom, and you are all over that piano.
Yeah.
And she's getting better. She plays every day now that Dad's gone. But I want you to know that, the reason you're here, you have reasons that you came to Baraboo and to Walnut Hill, but I'm pretty sure it was my mom's prayers. Because she played from the age of 12 in different churches all the way until whenever you came. But she had been saying for a long time, you're going to need somebody. I'm not going to do this. And then Ruth Hunt appeared.
Well, I just knew that Ruth wanted somebody to take her place. But every time I heard your mother play the piano, I never heard her make a mistake. She plays flawlessly. And I thought, I can't do that. I mean, I make mistakes and everybody knows it. It's just like, that's just the way it is. But that's just what I remember about your mom. She played so well.
She was very technical. She was always amazed at the feeling. And of course, you do so much more than what, anybody really can do. But wow, I've enjoyed your relationship, the two Ruths, but she's never been jealous of all the attention that comes to Ruth Hunt. She loves, and we all have just really benefited from your service.
That's great, because that can be very contentious in a church. Those kind of things. There was a little lady it was Des Plaines Bible Church that I took her place, and she was not happy. And so I had to make her a friend, and I did. But she wanted to do it so badly, but she didn't want to admit that she couldn't really do it anymore.
Yeah.
So Craig talked to her and me together, and then separately, and so we worked it out so that we became friends. So it was good.
How did you get to Baraboo? How did you end up in this area?
How did I get to Baraboo? Well, we vacationed here with the kids, and we decided this would be kind of a neat place to live. And I'm trying to think, a lot of things are leaving my mind.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Which I wish stayed, but some of them are fleeting.
Yeah.
But I just remember that we thought we were ready for a move, and wouldn't it be kind of nice to live in this place?
Nice.
And I don't know if I started going here when Zwart was the pastor, off and on, because we had the restaurant. We had the restaurant all those 22 years. And so I came here then.
That'd be the 1980s, most likely.
Okay.
I mean, he left here in '89.
I'm trying to think when we moved here.
Maybe it was your vacationing times.
I think that we actually moved here in '78, and Harry started building a place for us to live or to.
Do you know, and that's okay if you don't remember, but your vacations here, were they camping? Was it at the lake?
I was never a really great camper.
Yeah.
I was a good camper on a Holiday Inn, you know.
You and those
could take the
worms,
kids-
right? Over
Yeah,
at Holiday Inn, yeah.
No, but I mean, I did do some camping. We actually did have when we had both kids, we had a tent for 5, and it was okay. It was, I mean, we made it fun, but it was not my favorite thing to
Yeah.
do. But Harry he put all the worms on the hook for
Okay.
us.
But you ended up deciding to settle in this area, and then you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where we lived here first. Merrimack.
Yeah.
We lived in Merrimack for many years.
How did you decide? You weren't the original. I guess I don't know how long the old schoolhouse.
No,
is.
we started it
You started it.
in '79.
The old schoolhouse. What was it? A restaurant?
It
At
was
the Bar and
nothing.
Grill?
It was a house.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was it when you ran it?
When
A bar
we-
and grill, or
No, it was a restaurant.
Restaurant, yeah.
It had a bar in it, and that was
Yeah.
part of a problem. But anyway,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean, we had,
How did you get into the restaurant business?
well, because I don't want to insult anybody, but we could not find a decent pizza in this area back in those days.
Oh, wow.
And we had a restaurant in Des Plaines that had the best fried chicken you've ever eaten in your life. And so we knew when we were going to move here, we wanted the fried chicken recipe, and that was from Nick's La Cantina in Des Plaines, and we wanted Gino's recipe for his pizza. Not the Gino's East or anything, but a little hole in the wall on Rush Street. So we went there every Saturday night for a date, and they would have our salads on the table and the pizza in the oven when they saw us walking in,
Oh,
practically.
wow.
But anyway, he did not want to give us his pizza recipe, but we promised him, we said we'd even signed something, that we were going to be 120 miles up the road. We were not going to be any competition for him at all. So he said, okay. So he said, I'm giving it to you as close as I can. So the rest was up to us to figure it out, but Harry was good at it. So we had pretty much all of Nick's recipe. And the chicken, what was it? The something else at Nick's. Oh, the spaghetti sauce, which I still make for Kathy, but the spaghetti sauce was amazing at Nick's La Cantina. He said, if you come tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, my brother will give you all of the recipe for the spaghetti sauce. So I was there with my and he could barely speak English. I mean, he was like right from Italy, and he didn't have to speak English that much, so he didn't. And so it was a language barrier. But I wrote down everything he told me to put, and that was our spaghetti sauce recipe at the restaurant for the whole 22 years. And
Is that what, 22 years you
Uh-huh.
ran it? Okay, so that would be early 80s or even
I
late
think we opened
70s?
on 79.
79.
And we sold it, I think, in 2001 or something.
Yeah,
like
right around there. You had. I think that was a
Yeah.
reference point we were
Yeah.
able to use. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pull up the
That's
dates.
incredible. Okay.
Yeah.
Ton of work, a lot of satisfying relationships, but it was hard to do church and to
It
run
was
the restaurant.
it was difficult because Sundays were our busy, was one of
Yeah.
the 3 busiest days in the week.
Okay.
And I mean, no, if I would have been in the right place with the Lord, I would have been here. That would have been number one,
Yeah.
but I wasn't.
Okay.
And so, the restaurant was like the life. That
Yeah.
was everything,
Put
because I was
everything into
there
it,
almost
yeah.
all the time. When we first opened it, we made everything ourselves with our own 2 hands for it until I was so exhausted I could not pull the pizza door open. And the cook that was there said to Harry, you need to get her out of here before she collapses. And I was about to. And so he took me home, and I slept like for 24 hours straight.
Wow.
But it was just, we wanted to do everything, and it had to be natural, and it had to be healthy, and all
Okay.
this kind of stuff. So that's how we started.
Well, it was a remarkable accomplishment, those 22 years.
It was satisfying. We met a lot of nice people from Illinois and from Wisconsin, and neighbors, and it was on the whole, it was a good thing. There are things about a restaurant business that is not conducive to a healthy family life, because there's not much of a one. But our kids had to work; they had jobs, and they weren't allowed to quit. So that was one thing about them. Kathy kept trying to run away, but I'd always find her and bring her back. But no, but it wasn't. But they turned out to be some of our best employees. Mark was great in the kitchen, and it's hard. I don't know if you have ever had any experience of restaurants, but cooks can be very temperamental, and they like to play. Some of them like to play head games with the waitresses, and they'll hold back food, or they'll,
sure, I'm glad
you
my
know, or they'll
sister's not here to
swear at
hear
them. And
this story.
I would be back there saying, "If I hear that word one more time,
Wow.
do not test me." And so anyway, I would try to keep them, from being too disgusting. But it was hard. It was a little bit. There were some hard things.
Well, and I had talked to Ruth somewhat extensively, I think on a couple occasions, and we just kind of, I think she was okay with me saying that Ruth's story, among many other accomplishments and things, is a story of steadfast endurance. And she really has been a faithful woman amidst some very difficult circumstances. But I said, can I at least share that? But there's a generation and a certain respect that Ruth has that she doesn't, we don't need to go into details on that. But this is really a remarkable woman, and some of those deepest stories of endurance are usually ones that aren't shared. So I think that heart that she had through the fires of some pains, and also the Holy Spirit, and the way that she was raised, and all sorts of elements, led her to really have a heart for others as well. And that's one thing. You think of these piano players that can play like that. You think they're kind of these type A, perfectionists. Everything's got to be perfect in their lives and homes. And maybe you
That's
have some
not
of
me.
it. That's not you. But I thought maybe we'd finish with, I've just seen your ministry. Like even when I was youth pastor, I had your grandkids are staying with you. You're helping to raise your own family. You're taking in. You still have Andrew living with you all these years later. You took in Kyle Coolidge. Maybe we could talk a little bit about your relationship with. Do you guys remember Kyle Coolidge? He'd be Brooke's first cousin, right? Brooke, yeah. And then Kyle was just a magnificent piano player as well, but had some real
amazing.
Challenges. And tell us a little bit about your heart for taking in others, and maybe a little bit about your relationship with Kyle.
Well, taking people in started back in the restaurant days. I'll never forget, I saw this guy coming down DL on a motorcycle, and Harry was working outside, and I was coming outside, and the motorcycle guy came in, started talking to Harry, and the next thing I knew, Harry said, "Ruthie, can we clean out that room?" We had a little building out back that we just put stuff in, but he had finished it. It was carpeted. There was a bathroom, and so we had a bed in there. I mean, it was like you could live in there, but it was just we hadn't used it for a while. I said, "Yeah." So anyway, here this guy, he had been in the Vietnam War. He had PTSD. And he was also involved in drugs and alcohol, and so and he was a black man, but he was, I don't know, there was just something about him that we. And Harry said, "Well, you're not going to sit around doing nothing." He said, "If you're going to live here, you're going to work here." So he put him on dishes, and he trained him to do some stuff up in the kitchen, always willing to help, outside or inside. And so he was one person. And then we had another couple that were building their house and they needed a place to stay. So we cleaned out the back house and they lived in there for a couple of months till their house was finished. So it's just like, just as the need arose. And so then when we had our grandkids for a year or so, and after that I didn't want to give them back at the end of that year. Then, just different people that would come in and out of our lives. But Kyle was one that really reached my heart because he was so smart, for one thing. And we would have these discussions at the breakfast table or the lunch table, and he would explain things to me. I said, "You're going to have to dumb that down a little bit because I do not know what you're talking about." And so he was very patient with me, but he had almost died a few times because of alcohol poisoning, and he just couldn't, I said, "Kyle, you can't live here." If I was getting a lot of flack from my daughter about having anybody in the house that was to drink. And I said, he's not mean, he's not mine, you don't have to worry. So anyway, my son called me and he said, "Ruthie," he said, "I want you to promise me something and then I will promise you something." He said, "I want you to promise me that if Kyle ever gets drunk, I want you to pack up his clothes and take him somewhere." And I said, "Oh boy, I didn't want to do that." But I said, "Well, what's your promise to me?" He said, "If you think he's worthy, you can find a place anywhere in the country to send him for long-term treatment." And so he said, "You can talk to Tyson and you." He said, "You can get together and try to find this place." Well, we found a place in Nashville. And Kyle seemed to think that would have been a year. And so I took him to the airport on Christmas Eve, and I don't remember what year it was. And I hated to take him, but I knew this was what he had to do. And he agreed, and he was totally in for it. And because Mark said, "You need to find out, Mom, does he want to be sober? How much does he want to be sober?" And we went through that with him, and he wanted it more than anything in the world. So it was heartbreaking, and yet there were just so many things about him that were a blessing. And I would be practicing for this, and I'd say, "Now it's your turn, you need to practice." And I said, "You brought all your music along, so you get that out and you start practicing a little bit." And he did. So we had that in common, and it was fun. And he would take walks with me, and he'd walk slow with me, and we'd have good conversations. So it was hard to let him go, and it was hard to really let him go when the time came when he died. But I still think of him. I still think of those conversations we had with him, and I just feel like I know that he's with the Lord. We had fellowship. We talked about the Lord and about the Bible and things, a lot of things. So I think that he's the last person that I've had to come and live with me for a while. I've had a lot of people just for a couple of days, but that's pretty much that. But I love being in the position of being able to help people to get better.
I love that.
It doesn't always get better, but you can work at it anyway.
Yeah.
And the Lord, the Lord had a reason for all of that, for me as well as for him and his family. They went through all kinds of things for years with this guy.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was the Lord. The Lord took care of it in his own way. We don't always understand it, but it's his way.
Well, thank you for that powerful example, and let's thank Ruth for sharing. Didn't she do a great job? She said this is not her thing, but I think this is her thing. I think we need to get her on some sort of panel and do this regularly with Ruth. But yeah, let me close our time now. Lord, thank you for Ruth and for her life. It is kind of awe-inspiring to see the kind of gifting that you can offer someone and to see them really treat that for what it is. It's a gift. It's a gift that's been developed, but it's something from the Lord that needs to be given back to the Lord and be for the encouragement of others. So I thank you for her faithfulness in sharing that. But Lord, there's a lot more to Ruth than just playing the piano, and I thank you for all that is there too in terms of her concern for God's word and determination for biblical truth to be shared and to be understood, and for her love for people and a desire to care for others. Lord, there's a lot there to be grateful for. So thank you for our sister, and as I've said many times, long live Ruth Hunt. I pray that we would have her for a long, long time. Thank you for this time, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.